First on film and entertainment, and there is a big new musical in town. I am so excited about it because generally speaking, what happens is that producers, well, they cut their cloth to suit, which means that obviously big musical don't get that it will be made where we know that people are going to buy tickets. They're the ones that they invest in. And that's generally the case with musicals. So don't get me wrong, I think it's fantastic that we see Rocky Horror and Jersey Boys and all sorts of other things over and over. But it's also lovely when we haven't seen something. And Groundhog Day, the musical, is what I'm talking about. Now, I suspect that because we're all of a certain age, we must have seen Groundhog Day, the movie. All of us, and I'm talking about Greg King, I'm talking about Jackie Hammerton, and I'm talking Peter Krauss. Have you all seen the 1993 movie? Jackie, you?
Yes, of course.
Now, when you say of course, did you appreciate it at the time or you can't recall?
Oh, yeah, great fun.
Great fun. Okay, Peter?
Yes, it was a very clever premise with Bill Murray.
And it's interesting how the premise these days, the word Groundhog Day just is part of the lexicon, isn't it? So it's incredible how impactful an individual film like that can have. What about you, Greg? Your recollection of Groundhog Day?
I've seen it several times.
Oh,
nothing
really?
changed. Nothing changed each time I went to saw it.
Very good, Greg. Thank you. Well, this one as a musical is on at the Princess Theatre, and what a brilliant, brilliant production it is. And there's only one word to describe Tim Minchin, and that's genius. This guy who, do you remember Matilda the musical? I want to see that one again. He was the man responsible for the music in that. And the music in this, Groundhog Day, helps propel the narrative. Now, you have to be particularly clever to be able to do that. It's interesting, we talked last week about the movie The Colour Purple and how the music doesn't fit in with the story. Well, this is quite the opposite. So for those people who have not seen Groundhog Day, the movie, and obviously this pertains to the musical as well, imagine living your life in an endless time loop and going nutso crazy in the process. That's what it's all about. And it's based on the film, which not only starred Bill Murray, but also Andy McDowell, and was directed by Gregory. Do you remember? Who directed? No? Okay.
I'm a little blank.
Harold Ramis. Now, Phil Collins, not Collins, Phil Connors is this egotistical Pittsburgh television weather presenter, and he's dreading his regular trip to small town America. He's doing it for the fourth time. Specifically, I love this name, Punxsutawney, spelled Punxsutawney. We have some unusual spellings of various things in this country too, but we don't have a Punxsutawney here. Anyway, that's in Pennsylvania, and that's where they celebrate Groundhog Day on February the 2nd. I don't have an explanation for this, but the opening night, the official opening night of Groundhog Day the musical at the Princess Theatre was February the 1st. I don't know why they didn't wait till the 2nd. Anyway, the day itself, that's when a groundhog... by the way, do we know what a groundhog is? Can you hazard a guess? Is there an equivalent animal that you can sort of draw upon to tell me what a groundhog is? Any of you? No?
Wombat?
No. Oh, I'll call it a large squirrel.
Ah.
Anyway. This is a groundhog named Phil. I have no idea why it's named Phil, but there we go. It predicts whether they'll face 6 more weeks of winter or are rejuvenated with an early spring. All right, so that's what it's all about. And the townsfolk, led by the mayor, celebrate the day with a parade and a slap-up dinner. But a deeply cynical weatherman, Phil Collins, I keep on saying Collins. I can't help myself. Anyway, Phil...
In the air tonight, probably.
Say, you're...
Busy rider.
Yeah, excuse me, this is your thin backyard, is it, Peter Krauss? You don't have walls. We established that some time ago. Did you hear the motorbike running through your front yard?
Oh, running through the apartment, you mean?
The apartment, yes. Unbelievable. Okay, so let's get back to Groundhog Day, the musical. So you've got Connors who's put up the night before in this quaint bed and breakfast, wants to get in and out of the place as quickly as possible. And early on the February 2nd, he's greeted by a regular cameraman called Larry, his regular cameraman, but he has a new producer, Rita Hansen, and he treats both of them offhandedly. So he completes his segment on air and is intent on skedaddling. So problem is that against his expectations and his forecast, I might add, there's no movement in or out of Puxatawney because the place is snowed in. And to make matters worse, when he awakens the next morning and the morning after and the morning after that and so on, it's still February the 2nd. And everything, as Greg said, and I mean everything word for word, is on repeat. So Connors quickly slides into this rather dark place before he comes to realise that there's a way to make the best of a bad situation. The musical, has been developed and directed by Matthew Warchus, book by Danny Rubin, already mentioned music and lyrics by Tim Minchin. It is a ripper, a rolled gold winner. And look, I'm just in awe of Minchin's ability to keep producing such fine material. His lyrics, as I mentioned, keep the story moving. The numbers are ear-pleasing, they're melodic. The talent involved in the show is superb. The staging is magnificent. The dancing, including a tap routine, skillfully choreographed, and there's surprising magic at play. Now, which of you have seen or did see Harry Potter? Any of you? No?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, there's a reluctance. Hang on. So there's yes from Jackie, and who was the other?
Coming out stage play or the films?
The stage play.
No, I didn't see that.
No.
Jackie, you saw
Yes, I did.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Did you see the two-parter or the one-parter?
The two-parter, and I saw it on the one day.
Ah, well, okay. And do you remember one of the things that was at the Princess Theatre from recollection, was it not? Anyway.
Or somewhere on top of the city there.
Yeah, top of the city there, yes. Anyway, and at the Princess, the one of the things about it that really stood out was the magic. Did it not? That really...
Look, I remember distinctly you saying that over and over again, and I thought it was, well, appropriate, but it certainly didn't stand out for me. I was a bit disappointed by the stage show.
Oh, okay.
Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, wasn't it?
Totally, yes. It's called, what was it? Harry Potter and the
Cursed Child?
Cursed Child.
Wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Is that right?
You're correct, and you're wrong though. You're often wrong. You're so wrong. You couldn't be further from the truth. So totally ignore what Jackie said. The reason I'm saying that is that there's magic in this one as well, and it reminded me of the magic in Harry Potter. So Jackie, I don't know what it takes to surprise you when it comes to magic, but it's very special here. Like it was
good magic is good.
It was great magic in Harry Potter. I saw Harry Potter 3 times, and I'm not a Harry Potter fan, but it was fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I'm talking about the movies. The musical was just immeasurably better than the movies, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, nothing wrong with the movies, but this was great. So, what we've got in Groundhog Day, the musical, is I don't know whether you've heard the name Andy Karl. I suspect none of you have. Karl spelled Karl. He played Phil Connors on Broadway. He originally brought it to London's Old Vic Theatre, then played it on Broadway, then brought it back to London's Old Vic. It won him an Olivier Award. He was nominated for a Tony Award, and somebody said to me that after this Melbourne season, he's going back for another London season. He offers up, I'm not kidding you, a musical theatre masterclass. He's got this superb range. He generates emotional resonance. What a performance. He transitions, I'm talking Andy Karl, from arrogant, mean, manipulative and dastardly to caring and sensitive in the space of 2.5 hours, including interval. Phenomenal. And Elise McCann plays Rita Hansen. Now, she's well aware of the Connor's bad boy reputation that preceded him. She's worked with him in one other setting, which is unimportant, but suffice to say, Elise McCann, brings sensitivity and emotional intelligence to bear, and she also soars vocally in Groundhog Day, the musical, at the Princess Theatre. Ashley Rubinach leans into her role as the pretty good time girl, Nancy Taylor. Her solo at the start of the second act both sad and endearing. Tim Wright captures the essence of Connor's nerdish, now insurance salesman, former classmate Ned Ryerson. Connors couldn't stand him back in the day at school. That awkwardness is evident as Ryerson continually bumps into Connors in Puxatawney on February the 2nd. And Wright comes into his own with a moving number also in the second act. These characters, these actors are ably supported by a strong ensemble. Just to show you how strong it is, Alison White, who is a leading lady, terrific theatre. I've never seen her in a musical before, I might say. She plays a bit part in this one. She plays the owner of the Airbnb, but the bed and breakfast. So anyway, the ensemble, very, very strong. It's a delightful journey to take. And one of my favourite scenes sees a drowning Connors downing shots with a couple of local drunk hicks named Gus and Ralph. And that happens as Connors is spiralling. Now, while the trio, I'm talking about Connors, Gus and Ralph, are hilarious at the bar where the scene starts, the highly creative staging of what follows immediately thereafter is an undoubted highlight of the show. I'm not about to spoil it for you, but I should quickly add that that's one of many highlights, including, this is where the magic comes in, the disappearance and reappearance of Connors several times in succession after interval. And what greets you as you enter the Princess Theatre, and Greg, yes, I did count these, is an imposing set consisting of more than 30 television screens of various sizes. Wow. I mean, wow, that is quite something. And onto them are plastered images of Phil Connors presenting the weather. So make no mistake, he's the star of this show. And what an unforgettable, thoroughly engaging, totally entertaining night of theatre Groundhog Day the musical is for everybody except Jackie, who doesn't like magic. No, Jackie, you've got to go and see this. I know you like your musicals. This is an absolute superb. I mean, the laughs come thick and fast. The sentiment shines through. It's slick, it's fanciful, it's fun. It's playing at the Princess Theatre until the 7th of April. That is Groundhog Day, the musical, on J-Air, 88 FM. Join us, right? Not just now. Pay your $54, become a member of J-Air. Go to j-air.com.au. On that note, now, have I convinced you to see it, Jackie, by the way?
Oh, not necessarily, Alex, because if you thought that the Harry Potter stage performances had amazing magic and I thought it was fairly ordinary, and you think this one is amazing, what would make me think it actually is?
Because I actually said to you that the actor that leads this won an Olivier Award and was nominated for a Tony. Does that not inspire you? And that Tim Minchin is a genius?
Oh, Tim Minchin is like totally, that's the reason I would go. Matilda is one of my all-time favourite.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
in top 3, if not my top ever, most enjoyable stage musical.
And I can't understand.
Loved it.
Yeah, so did I, and I can't understand.
And it didn't have any magic in it.
Thank you. I can't understand why we haven't seen it back, because it's that good, right? It is that good, Matilda the musical. And
it had a very long run, didn't it?
I can't recall. I mean, it's too long ago. I'm trying to remember when we...
Maybe it'll come back. Maybe they're planning that as we speak.
Well, Sunset Boulevard, which we haven't seen for ages, is coming back, which is great. It's exactly what you...
Now that would interest me.
That would, well, okay, so...
that would interest Peter. That would interest Peter, wouldn't it? Peter?
Yes, although the original film, of course, can't be topped, I think.
No. Peter, Pumpkin Eater. You don't recognise, you do not recognise that on occasions, musical theatre or theatre can absolutely no question, outdo a film. It just depends on...
They can work together, it's not going to try and completely replicate it because it's a different medium. So, go with it and just enjoy it. You might be surprised.
Well, but by the way, the guys involved in Matilda, a number of them are involved in the show as well. I mentioned to you, for example, that Matthew Warchus is involved he directed Matilda the musical. So, I mean, there are lots of people. I'm just looking back. If I'm not mistaken, it was here in 2016. There you go, based on my review at the time. So it's usually around about the 7 to 10 years. It's like doubling the price of your home, Jackie. You'd know more about that, wouldn't you? That every 7 to 10 years it's meant to double. Is that right? The price
one hopes if you actually buy the right property, but it's never guaranteed.
One that doesn't need renovation, Jacqueline?
We don't talk about renovation.
No. We often do off camera, so to speak. Okay, let's go from there, from talking about a musical to talking about a few films, and I want to start with a movie that moved me greatly, and I don't usually give you much credit, Jackie, but I will give you credit for Rice Boy Sleeps, because it really, what a powerful, sensitive and affecting work in Korean and English. I just thought, oh my golly. So thank you, Jackie, for insisting that I see this one. I hope you liked it as much as I did. Firstly, let me ask you that before I go on.
That's why I really wanted you to see it, Alex, and not just dismiss it as not having time, because it's worth the time.
Well, look, it's a coming-of-age legacy story, and let me give you a bit of context here. On a cold winter's night in 1960, So Young, that's the character name, played by Choi Seong-yoon, was discovered on the steps of a temple in Korea wrapped in a blanket, and no one knew where she came from. She was moved from one orphanage to another, and when she came of age, she packed her bags, left for the city, and worked tirelessly. And one of her jobs was at a popular bar near a university, which was where she met a young student who just returned from finishing his military service, and he was the son of poor rice farmers. So Young and that man became inseparable, but his mental health deteriorated and he suffered from schizophrenia. He was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. He took his own life and left behind So Young and their newborn son. As the baby was born out of wedlock, by law he couldn't have citizenship. So again, So Young packed her bags to start a new life in Canada, where she took a job in a factory. After a narrator's introduction giving the backstory which I've just given you, Rice Boy Sleeps unfolds in a couple of time frames, 1990 and 1999. And it's So Young's journey and that of her son, whose name is Dong Hyun, played as a grade 1 student by, and I apologise if I mispronounce the name, Dong Noel Hwang, and then as a 15-year-old by Ethan Hwang. Both So Young and her son are headstrong. So Young is determined to provide a better life for Dong Hyun than the one she left behind. She tries to teach Dong Hyun resilience, including standing up for himself when he faces discrimination and bullying. Dong Hyun develops attitude, and it's not uncommon for the pair to clash. So Young avoids any and all questions from Dong Hyun about his father until a devastating development changes all of that. So this one, Rice Boy Sleeps, is very much a personal story for the writer, for the director, for the actor Anthony Shim. His family, Anthony Shim's family, emigrated from South Korea to Canada in 1994 when he was 8. And he grew up on Vancouver Island, where he was often the only Asian child in school. He was looked at, he was treated like an alien. So he desperately tried to fit in. And these are just some of the images that Shim, the filmmaker, who's also edited this movie, I might say, captures in Rice Boy Sleeps. It's a movie of real quality and substance, naturalism at its core, and I very much believed what I was seeing unfold thanks to the striking characterizations. So Young is the glue that binds the piece together. Choi Seong-yoon plays her as generally quiet but really gutsy. You can tell just how much So Young has endured and continues to bear, always ready to face adversity. Dong Noel Hwan is a loner, cute and bewildered as the younger son, Dong Hyun, while Ethan Hwang is noteworthy as a recalcitrant teen. Often teenagers rebel. That's what he's like here. A gentle soul in the movie is the character of Simon, who's played by the writer and director Anthony Shim, and he's faced his own challenges and takes a shine to So Young. I thought the cinematography by Christopher Liu really captured the cultural divide between Canada and Korea. Also appreciated the mood-setting music by Andrew Yong-hoon Lee. it moved me greatly, and no scene more than that focusing on So Young in the Korean mountains towards the end of this film. It is really special, Rice Boy Sleeps, and I would highly commend it. And I want to get your thoughts, Jackie.
I think the final scene of Rice Boy Sleeps is just masterful. It's basically brings the entire film together and it stays with you. It's so heartfelt and so strong and so quiet. And in fact, you could say that about the whole film. It's actually a lot of quiet, domestic, daily life style, action's the wrong word because I'm trying to say the opposite of that. It's just the way of living. It's, it's a story of grief and migrant story and coming of age, and it all travels on a fairly quiet plane. But these bursts of big happenings in their lives, events, tragedies that keep coming back. And so it's a film of contrasts in that way. But what we really love is the characters who you can identify with them even though you're not in their situation. It's a sympathy and understanding, and you can see how they're travelling. They're not one-dimensional characters. We learn a lot about them. They look great on the screen. The cinematography, especially when they go to Korea towards the end of the film, is again, it's actually quite simple, but it's really, really beautiful. And that brings it all.
Contrast. It's such a contrast to Canada, and that's the point that I was making. That I mean, you've got this situation where the son has got a foot in both camps, and it's interesting. He's very much trying
as they have to do, the migrants, to fit in, but also at the end, he needs to find the mother has to can fit in, and she knows her background, but her son, not knowing anything about where he came from, his cultural heritage, except by seeing it in his mother's experience, but living in Canada, he has to go back to discover who he is and where he comes from. And it sounds like an old story, but it's so beautifully done.
Oh, wonderful. So yeah, I mean, it really is. I know it's early on in the year, but it's going to be right up there amongst the best films of this year, I reckon. Don't you, Jackie?
It'll be there, yeah.
Yeah, it'll be there. Peter.
Yes, that's me.
Are you sleeping like Rice Boy?
No, I'm just trying to mitigate the noise because I'm living near the Pride Parade happening in Fitzroy Street, St Kilda, and that's why all this noise is occurring right now.
No, it's not because of that. You live without walls. We know the truth. You basically, it's like you're living in a Barbie movie, in a Barbie world, correct? It's exactly like Barbie. You're open to the elements.
Are you accusing me of being a living doll?
Peter, if I ever accuse you of that, then men in white coats are going to cart me away. Yes. But did you find this as moving as Jackie and I?
It is. It's a beautifully made film. Anthony Sim has done a lovely job telling his own story. And the Korean lived experience of migration, which we've seen before in Minari and, of course, in Past Lives, seems to be a very strong subgenre of Korean experience that we're now seeing in cinemas. And Rice Boy Sleeps is so well directed and quietly observed, which is what I liked about it. And the racism and bullying and all that happened in the 90s for the mother and for the boy in particular really evoked quite effectively. I also like the way Shim used 2 aspect ratios in the film. He used the normal screen ratio for the Canadian shots and the widescreen and very colourful shots for the Korean landscapes that we see early in the film and at the end. So I think that resonates in terms of his own experience and wanting to, I suppose, relive and enjoy his mother's Korean life, even though they're now in Canada. So a very impressive film, beautifully made. Yes, I certainly recommend it.
What about you, Greg?
It's a very interesting film about that cultural divide, isn't it? The immigrant experience, that difficulty of fitting in, adjusting to a new culture, making friends in it. And it does explore this with insight and empathy. As you said, it's a very semi-autobiographical graphical coming-of-age film from the Canadian filmmaker Anthony Shim there. The early scenes show how hard it was for Sue Young to fit in. She works in a factory, but there she often suffers from sexual harassment from a couple of co-workers, and the boy suffers bullying at school. Racism is mostly teased at school because of his looks, the strange Korean food he brings there, and he finds little support from the teachers who don't know how to pronounce his name, and he would suggest he change his name to something more anglicised. So, all that racism comes out there. Then a decade later, it's no wonder he's an angry teenager who finds life as an adolescent hard. But also the fact that when he asks his mother about questions about his father, it's met with a silence, which doesn't help him. It adds to his frustration there. But then, as you said, when they get back to Korea, both mother and son reassess the relationship and form this strong bond. And that, as Jackie said, those final scenes are quite beautiful and movingly done. As Peter pointed out, I like the cinematography there, especially the widescreen cinematography of Korea there, which was really beautiful and gave you a sense of the location there, very evocative. And I thought Andrew Lee's score was also evocative, if a little melodramatic at times. And this is a heartfelt drama that will certainly find a niche in the art house cinemas.
No, very much so. Well, okay, so let's get some scores, and I think they're going to be reasonably high. So, Greg, start with you.
7.
7 for Rice Boy Sleeps. Okay, I thought much more highly of it. What about you, Peter?
I liked it. 8 out of 10.
Right. And Jackie?
Yes, an 8 to 8.5 for Rice Boy Sleeps.
And I'm giving it 8.5. I really enjoyed it very, very much. So, yeah, okay, folks, it's a very nice way to start on J-Air. First on Film and Entertainment, and we will move on to May, December. Now, I think that it's probably got more column centimetres than most international stories when the scandalous story upon, well, what I should say, not what this is based on, it's inspired by, May December was inspired by this particular story. It's directed by Todd Haynes, who did Carol, and it's MA rated, it's 117 minutes. Now, it's the inspiration was the story of Mary Kay Letourneau, and she was the American teacher. 1997, she pleaded guilty to a couple of counts of felony second-degree rape of a child, namely her 6th grade student, who was 12 years old at the time. And she was jailed from 1998 to 2004, and upon her release, Letourneau married the person that she was jailed for. So May December's construct is that 20 years after similar couples' notorious romance gripped the nation, a film's about to be made outlining what went down. So as I say, starting point, truth, and then it's fictitious beyond that. But it draws, I dare say, a lot on the imagery that we've got in our heads of the Mary Kay Letourneau story. So the star of the picture that is about to be made is an actress, a television actress named Elizabeth, and that's a role filled by Natalie Portman. And as part of her method acting, before filming starts, Elizabeth reaches out to, I'll just call her the Scarlet Woman involved, whose name is Gracie. And Gracie's played by Julianne Moore. And Elizabeth spends time with Gracie, along with her husband. It was the underage child she took advantage of a couple of decades earlier. Elizabeth also spends time with the family and others involved. And her modus operandi is to really try to get to know Gracie and her mindset, what motivated her to do what she did, and how Gracie feels about that now. So Elizabeth also wants to get a read on the husband, on Joe Yu, played by Charles Melton, his state of mind and that of their children and Gracie's children from a previous marriage. What arises are really questions of consent, manipulation and vulnerability. There's really a sinister edge to what we see, even a couple of decades after the sensational goings on. Gracie and Joe's relationship is going to be tested again. Cracks will open up, pressure is applied. And Elizabeth's moral compass also is going to come under scrutiny. I reckon this is a film where patience is rewarded as the screws are tightened by the writer, Sammy Birch, who has done a fine job. Nothing happens quickly, but there's no let up, and as the heat sort of comes on. The unease, the distrust that Gracie has of Elizabeth's motive for being at home is immediately apparent. At various junctures thereafter, the pair bonds and disassociates. All the while, Elizabeth is studying Gracie's affectations, which she puts to good use in the final scene when filming of the movie being made starts. I thought that Portman was outstanding. Multi-layered performance. She immerses herself in the role of as Elizabeth. She's natural, she's credible, and Julianne Moore as well excels. Often through her characterization, she appears to be playing with us, and I'm saying with us, the audience, in an endeavour to win our favour. I'm talking about Julianne Moore. But all too frequently, chinks in Gracie's armour appear. And that's a deliberate choice by the writer to move us one way and then the other. And for his part, Charles Melton is sensitive but stoic as Joe Yu. Marcello Zarbos's compelling music bed ratchets up the tension in many scenes. And the director, Todd Haynes, has a really good command of the subject matter, milks the dichotomies to ensure impact. I really like May December more and more the longer it went. What about you, Greg?
Look, again, this is a quite interesting film there. Todd Haynes does this kind of thing quite well. He's really been a good director of female actresses there. It's a richly layered, melodramatic, but I thought deliberately ambiguous character study as well there. But not only is it about the relationship between the two women, the actress studying the other woman there, this also raises questions about the creative process. Why does an actress take on a character like this? Why does she want to play someone that's not very likeable or sympathetic there? And how does she go about preparing for such a challenging role? And there is that scene where Elizabeth explains her choice of roles and that to students in an acting class there. And the film's also dealing with themes of identity, how we see ourselves, because Grace doesn't see herself as a predator and Joe doesn't see himself as a victim. So, it's all a bit confusing there, but I thought it was really a bit too slow paced. I didn't draw me in as much as it did you, Alex, I think, there. But both Portman and Moore are strong in their respective roles, and Haynes slowly switched back that protective layer of his characters to depict them in a less than flattering light there. I thought Moore brought a brittle quality of performance, and as you said, Portman was really good there, brings a steely quality to her character. And Melton was really good as Joe, who still seems to be in many ways a naive youngster, and views his character with a touching vulnerability that captures his emotional turmoil. I thought it was a disturbing drama. It didn't provide a lot of easy answers there, but for me it lacked any real great dramatic moments, and the deliberately languid pace meant a lack of urgency there. And as I said, it didn't draw me in as much as you do, Alex.
Yeah, I mean, you remember, of course, the news stories at the time, don't you? Very much so, don't you?
No.
No? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, Jackie, you would remember the story, surely.
Not necessarily, no.
The Latorno.
I don't, no.
Well, I followed it very closely, and I must admit, I just saw it everywhere at the time. But anyway, what did you think of the movie May December?
I agree with you, Alex. I liked it more the longer it went on. And I think the main reason for that was to just detect how Natalie Portman, the actress, played Elizabeth, an actress who was absorbing the character she was going to be playing and picking up on the nuances and the mannerisms and sort of just, pushing her way into her life to find all the tiny details of her life. And, I really think that everyone was surprised at how much she was kind of nosying in there, even to the way she put her makeup on and what makeup she used. And
I thought that was amazing.
Oh, yeah. And half of that, of course, was to get their faces in the mirror together as we see Elizabeth merging into this character. And that's why I enjoyed it more, the more it went on, because that built up. But I liked some of the secondary characters were excellent in it, in their, almost casual approach to their roles. But I thought the character of Joe was a really interesting one too. As Greg said, he was a bit of a man-child, and he came to a point where, because Elizabeth was there looking at the overview of how their lives had turned out and why this had happened to start with, and digging right back down into that, when he was just a boy, I think a lot of this realization started, things were just dawning on him. And I think it showed how powerful his wife had been to take over his life and to seduce him and draw him into this. So yes, I thought it was. It was a great story. I'm kind of glad it wasn't exactly the way the news story was at the time. It was, fictionalized, and because I think it actually, if it had been much truer to the truth, it could have been a lot more distressing, I think, because it was a crime. Let's face it.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I still thought it was quite distressing, to be honest. I in terms of what we see and what we witness throughout the entirety of the film, and who's manipulating whom may be a question at the very beginning. But we're talking about a kid. We're talking about I don't recall. Do you remember how old the child was in the film?
I think he was. Yeah, he was 13 in the film, but in real life, he was 12. In the real story, he was actually 12.
Yeah, that's what I said.
He was a friend of her son's. They worked at the pet shop, something together. And again, wasn't that a great scene where Elizabeth went into the pet shop to see where this had occurred so many years before, 23 years or something before? Yes. That was a extraordinary scene too.
What about you, Peter? What did you think?
I really like this film. I love Todd Haynes' films because he loves to deal with characters who don't quite fit our normal boundaries and sort of somewhat unusual or on the edge. I mean, if you look at his films like Velvet Goldmine and Far From Heaven, Carol, as you've mentioned, I'm Not There, etc., he really likes dealing with provocative and intriguing people, and how some of them don't necessarily process the experiences that they've been through. And that certainly is the case in May, December, which is such a well-observed film, especially about an actress who was trying to get into the mindset of a woman who did, I suppose, defeat justice to some extent by having a relationship with an underage child and trying to understand what that was and the impact that had. I don't agree when you use the word sinister at one stage, Alex, to describe the way the story develops. I felt it was actually lighter than that and, in fact, had some semblance of humour in some of the dialogue and some of the observations.
I still thought there was a sinister undercurrent. Jackie, what did you think?
Yes, but I do agree that it kept getting lightened by the humour. There was some good dialogue and also some of the little incidences, such as a little bit of weed smoking on the roof and that sort of thing that were really light
and shade. Yeah. Anyway, keep going, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, and the film really, its strength, apart from the way the three main characters are trying to process everything that is going on in their lives, and is the final sequences, which I won't spoil, which really relay, perhaps, some of the, unusual aspects of the storyline and how some people just don't understand the impact that they have on other people, and in particular an actress trying to play a role and what that means for her and for that original relationship. So I very much liked May, December. I think it's one of Todd Haynes' more accessible films, and I noticed it does have an Oscar nomination, so except Charles Melton missed out.
Well, yes, and I would agree. It is one of his more accessible movies. So, look, let's get some scores, folks. MA rated, May December, 117 minutes. Greg, you'll be lowballing this, so where are you at with this?
Yes, as I said, it didn't draw me in as much as you. I only gave it a 5 out of 10.
Really? Wow. That's very low. Okay. I'll ask you, Jackie, where are you with it?
I was just going to also say May, December, in case people don't realise, refers to marriage between two people of different generations, one older, one younger. Just out of interest.
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah, my score for May, December, 7.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. Peter?
I really liked the film, and I also gave it 8 out of 10.
And I gave it an 8 out of 10 as well. There we go. So that is May, December. Let us move on, J88 FM, to a movie which we were going to talk about a few weeks ago. And I understand it's going to be a select film, but it's a very good film. It's called All of Us Strangers, and it's MA rated, 105 minutes. And it's really sensitive. It's dramatic. It's a fantasy romance concerning a couple of lost souls. They're sort of unbeknown to each other. They actually live in the same near-empty apartment block in London. And I'm not quite clear on why it's near empty, by the way. Maybe somebody can explain that to me, one of you.
I said it's just been constructed.
It didn't look that way to me.
It's just been, apparently reading up, it's just...
Well, they said that. Yeah.
Okay.
They said it had just been built and all the apartments weren't yet completed, so people hadn't moved in yet.
Okay, fantastic. Well, one night a triggered fire alarm sees the screenwriter, or a screenwriter called Adam, played by Andrew Scott, evacuate the building temporarily. And he's by himself. He stares up. He sees only a single illuminated window, and framed against it is a guy. And that man is Harry, Paul Mescal, who sees Adam looking up at him and later takes a chance by knocking on his door and introducing himself. Now, here's my question. The second question: how does he know which floor to go on? Does he go downstairs and look up as well? I mean, how would you know where he lives? Any idea?
Well, because the lift number, the floor number on the lift.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's presuming they're the only two in the building.
They're not maybe the only two, but
yeah,
there are very few in a very, very large building. It's not important, Alex.
No, I'm just the fine detail. That's all I'm asking you. Both men are gay, but Harry's the more forward of the pair, and after an initial false start, that connection is cemented and a relationship develops between them. Still, both have endured trauma, isolation as well, and in Adam's case, who's the original guy I spoke about, bullying. And Adam's struggling to deal with the passing of his parents 30 years ago when he was only 12. He imagines himself reconnecting with his mum, played by Claire Foy, and his dad, Jamie Bell. And this is reconnecting in the house where they grew up. And in this movie, although Adam, has not aged, has aged rather, let me restate that. Although Adam has aged since obviously he was 12 and now he's 42, his parents haven't. And Adam's warmly welcomed back into their lives. He sets about answering their questions as to what's happened in the intervening decades. That process also reveals a disconnect between Adam and his parents back in the day. Harry also is hiding a deep-seated need, I might say, and this is based on a novel by Taichi Yamada, and it's been written, All of Us Strangers, and is directed by Andrew Haig, who did Lean On Pete. It's slow burn, it's reflective, it's mysterious, and it's very, very well realised. Events unravel in their own sweet time. Patience is rewarded. I thought Andrew Scott was superb. He really plays this caring and considered character as the troubled lead, and it's this heartfelt performance as well. Much of it is deliberately left unsaid. Paul Mescal has layers to his characterisation as well. He imbues Harry with passion and vulnerability. Claire Foy brings wonderment and humour to her representation of a mother who knows she could have given more. And then there's internal wrestle within Jamie Bell as he tackles Dad's past inadequacies. So it's the second time I've used this term. First time was with regards to another character. This one, All of Us Strangers, is strong on emotional resonance. and it pinpoints the importance of breaking down barriers and letting others in. So I reckon Andrew Haig's imbued the film with a great deal of sensitivity. What did you think, Jackie? Oh, Peter. Sorry, let's start with Peter. What did you think, Peter?
Okay, Andrew Haig is such an interesting filmmaker because his own gay experience is sort of reflected to some extent in All of Us Strangers. When he saw the Japanese novel, which was heterosexual in orientation, plus the time travel and fantasy elements, and the idea of someone wanting to revisit their past in a particular dreamlike way, he changed that to being a gay story, and there is so much resonance in the way the two lead characters, Mescal and Scott, develop their roles, but especially about Scott and his travelling back to his parents' experience, and how he wasn't able to really reveal that he was gay, or at least it wasn't treated as being something that was appropriate, and although mother was more sympathetic than the father. And it's this whole notion of acceptance, of love, and of understanding the past and coming to grips with a heritage that you're trying to understand yourself, overlaid by this sort of fantasy elements which play out as the film progresses. I was very impressed by All of Us Strangers. I know it has multiple BAFTA nominations, and it is quite a powerful film which fits in the canon of films that deal with gay characters trying to understand and come to grips with their relationship to society. So, yes, very impressive film.
Gregory King.
Yes. This is probably got a lot in common with Andrew Haig's earlier film, Weekend, about two gay guys meeting over a weekend and developing that relationship there as well. So it has a bit in common with that film as well. The ghost story sort of isn't quite obvious what's happening for quite a while there, I thought. It takes a little while to get into that part of it there and travelling backwards and forwards. But it's got an ethereal, lyrical, sensitive nuances to it there. And it's also about connection, relationships, family, loss and trauma. So it deals with some weighty themes there. The past, memories and regrets there, and queer identity. And the fact that the parents died in the 80s, I think, it brings in all that elements of, the homophobia, the fear of AIDS, all that kind of stuff, which sort of there in the background. But it's, as Peter pointed out, I think this is a deeply personal and idiosyncratic film from Haig there, and it's full of raw emotions and honesty there, and it's probably his best film to date there. And the performances were all very good. Paul Mescal's had a great year this year. This is his fourth film, I think.
Is that right? Well, hang on. What are the... Okay.
After Sun, Carmen, and...
Another one. Okay, After Sun is the one that stands out for me. I've got to say that. That was a phenomenal film. Well, Jackie, you didn't like After Sun, did you?
No, I wasn't. It wasn't my favourite. No.
No.
I thought there was great chemistry between the two leads there as well that adds to the film. Paul Mescal brought back had a racist charm to his character that hides that personal pain you mentioned there. And I thought Andrew Scott was great, giving you that troubled, haunted quality to Adam there. And I thought Bell was also really good there, a mature, honest, subtly emotion charged performance there. And the eerie, bluish tinge cinematography from Jamie Ramsey also plays into that ghostly aesthetic, giving it a bit of a dreamlike quality at times there. And the music choices from the 80s there, particularly Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Jimmy Somerville, the Pet Shop Boys, inform the film's themes and steep us in that 80s vibe as well, give something of a melancholy edge to the material.
Yeah, very much so. Well, what about you, Jackie? Did you appreciate it?
So far, it's my film of the year.
Oh my golly!
I was absolute. In fact, I'm almost breaking down even just talking about this film.
Wow!
I just thought it was absolutely stunning in the way it was done, the story that it told. It could have misfired badly. We talk about dream sequences and grief and ghost story and love story, gay story, resurrection and the time slips and all of that. It could have gone so badly, but I thought it was exquisite in every aspect, from the characters to the cinematography, the ghostliness of it, the tension and the times of warmth, the reconnection with his parents. Just love this film.
Wow. Okay. So, well, let's. I'll start. I'll give it. All of Us Strangers, MA rated, 105 minutes. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. Greg?
7.
7. Peter?
Very impressive film, 9 out of 10 from me.
Wow. And Jackie?
I'll go the whole hog.
Really? Wow.
10 out of 10. All of Us Strangers.
Well,
highly recommend it.
Well, so it can't be beaten now for Film of the Year.
Could be if there are other films that get that score. I don't think I scored any film 10 out of 10 last year.
Oppenheimer, what did you give it?
I think I probably gave it 9 to 9.5. I don't think I gave it a 10. Anyway, I can't quite remember. But anyway, just all that aside, All of Us Strangers completely enveloped me. And it very heartfelt, and it was just beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it was certainly a very powerful film. No question about that. All right. Well, look, let's move on to our last film of the day, which is Force of Nature, The Dry 2. And we're talking M rating, 112 minutes. Federal Police have a financial services firm squarely in their sights. They've put the hard word on one of the employees to help bring down this particular firm. And that's the contention in The Dry 2, with Detective Aaron Falk, played by Eric Bana, returning from The Dry in 2020 to do much of the heavy lifting. And he and his partner, a detective called Carmen Cooper, Jacqueline McKenzie, are squeezing Alice. This is the employee, played by Anna Torv. She has deep insider knowledge of the workings of the company. She's profited from the dirty dealings, and so the authorities have Alice over a barrel. The last piece of the puzzle is the dangerous task of downloading data, which Alice is reluctant to undertake because she fears being caught within the firm. But Detective Falk will not take no for an answer. So the noose is tightening the day before Alice is due to go on a team bonding exercise deep into the Victorian bush. And she does that. And that's when the whole case against the firm, and specifically its boss, Daniel Bailey, played by Richard Roxburgh, looks like unravelling. That's because Alice goes missing. So bad weather's about to set in, a search involving Victoria Police and the two detectives I've mentioned, Detective Falk and Cooper. There's a search that's launched. And this short getaway that the Alice and others have taken also brings into focus the four other women in the company, all of whom have taken the trip. And they struggle with Alice's belligerent nature. They've got issues of their own as well. You could hardly call them happy campers because the group becomes lost. So mobile phones have been taken from them because this is a commune with nature type experience. Alice manages to smuggle one in, but it's really no help because there's hardly any reception. And the bush setting is also triggering for Detective Falk. He knows the area well. It's where he and his parents came when he was a boy. So a lot of detail in the plotting in The Dry 2, including a significant red herring. And it does require a bit of concentration to follow. Behind it, no shortage of pent-up anger and angst and emotion. So it's a thriller that unfolds in 3 time frames. You've got the present, the immediate past, and the distant past. And the writer and the director is Robert Connolly, and his work's based on a novel by Jane Harper. The setting, the cinematography by Andrew Commas from he did Blueback. I thought it was magnificent. Real picture postcard material. It's fantastic. Very proud shot in Victoria. All right, tension raised by Peter Rayburn, who was responsible for music in the Dry. The score is certainly raised in this score as well. Eric Bana, well, very solid. He always is, as the film's hero, Detective Falk. This is a deeply personal case for him. Richard Roxburgh brings arrogance and entitlement to the head of the financial enterprise, Daniel Bailey, and some of that rubs off on his wife, Jill, played by Deborah Lee Finesse, with whom he has a prickly relationship. Anna Torv she's got a no-compromise approach to her realisation of Alice, and Robin McLeavy is troubled as Alice's subjugated and poorly treated old school friend and colleague, Lauren. Then you've got Sissy Stinger, who revels in her bad girl persona as another employee called Beth, and Lucy Ansell plays her naive, good-natured sister, Bree. Now, for all of these positives, I reckon you've got to have a leap of faith to swallow a key component of the narrative. It seems mighty implausible that a group of women without any form of communication to the outside world would simply be let loose in a dense forest. Just didn't make a lot of sense to me. But and some of the scenes, I'm sorry, look decidedly amateurish. And that includes the opening when Alice disappears, and then women are crying out, and then when she twists her ankle. They're just a couple that really stood out for me as looking, below par. But overall, I was invested in the journey. I, as I say, admired the location. It's a decent film. I don't think it's as good as the original Dry, but it's okay. What about you, Jackie?
No, it's not okay, Alex. It wasn't okay at all. Most of it was below par, Alex. Yeah. It was a TV episode. It just didn't have the right tone. And the narrative, I mean, you say a leap of faith. Honestly, the plot holes none of it made sense. I did not believe it from the start. I mean, an office team building exercise where the women go off, including two sisters. Why would you put two sisters in it just doesn't. And when Alice falls back and bumps her head, she had a backpack on. How could you? It was just full of holes. It did not work for me at all.
Fair enough. Greg King?
This is more like an Agatha Christie mystery than the original Drive there, with the gallery of suspects there. But none of those women were really likeable or pleasant people. You couldn't care less about them, really. It looked beautiful, though. The scenery shot yacht ways and that by Andrew Haig was beautifully done there, and just showed how nature can dwarf human characters there. But yeah, for me, this is only an average film. Yeah.
What about you, Peter? Anything better than that?
I really liked this film, and I had a chat to Robert Connolly about it, and
did that influence your like? Did it, or
No. I wanted to know more about the background to the film, and he said it was based very strongly on Jane Harper's follow-up novel to The Dry, and especially dealing with leeches and everything in the Dandenong Ranges and so on. The filming was quite quite difficult at times. But no, I think I'm finding a little bit of sexism here in this review from some of you, because if this was a group of men who go out on a team bonding exercise and issues happen and so on, we would accept it and not question it at all.
No, I'm sorry.
No, not at all. No.
Rubbish, Peter. No. The fact is that they didn't have any communication. They didn't have a walkie-talkie. They didn't have anything. I don't care whether it's men, women, or German
guinea pigs.
German guinea pigs, yeah. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's kind of like it's like going out into the ocean without any perb. What's it called? An iPerb or whatever. You don't do that sort of thing. You tell people where you're going. You have some,
And at least the leader, the Deborah Lee Furness character, should have had some sort of communication device back.
Yep.
She was the leader. She was the team leader.
Yes, agreed. There you go, Peter. You've been found out.
I'm sorry, I disagree with all of those comments, because this was a very special sort of environment and situation that these women placed themselves in, and with the overlaying tension of what was going on externally. And I thought non-communication with the outside world was a key part of it. And I like the way the plot develops. Especially the twist at the end. Look, and it's an all-Australian cast, which is fantastic to see.
Yes, an all-Australian cast does... I'm sorry, we cannot give plaudits just because it's an all-Australian cast. You've got to view this against all the other movies that are out there. And I know it's being heavily produced, and I didn't mind it, right? but I don't think we give a pass just because it's an Australian cast.
Who's we?
I
I love the way you have an assumption about a view of a film that that you don't accept, and if someone else has a different view. And I was impressed by this film as I was watching it, and I liked the way it developed. I think it's a very effective follow-up to the first one, and Eric Bana and the rest of the cast, and Deborah Lee Furness in particular, are just superb in the film. I really liked it.
Okay. Yes. Well, I didn't mind it, but I didn't think you didn't see the amateurish acting. You didn't see any of that, Peter?
No, I did not,
Oh,
and
my
I
God.
dispute that completely.
I think there was some amateurish elements. Did you see that, Jackie? Amateurish.
Oh, look, I usually really like Eric Bana. I think he really lifts a film. But in this case, I thought he was just wooden, and he just flagged his, he signalled what was going on with his stares and his frowns and his...
Oh, really? No, I thought he was fine. I didn't have a problem with him. I had a problem with some of the...
Well, I did with everyone, but I was most disappointed with his because normally I'm a big fan.
So, look, I think I'll give the second highest score, Peter, after all of that, right? But so I think the lowest will be Jackie. Go for it.
I don't even like the title. Force of Nature, The Dry 2.
Yeah.
I just don't even like the title. 3 out of 10.
3 out of 10. There you go, Peter.
Yeah. Did not like.
Greg,
6 out of 10.
7 out of 10 for me. Peter, 17 out of 10. Go on, what is it?
The title is Jane Harper's, for goodness sake. And
Give us a score. Give us a score.
Doesn't mean I like it because of that.
no, I know, but welcome to the holdovers. Anyway, we won't go there either.
Very good. Jackie, I reckon but you've got to go and see the holdovers again. You really do.
I give Force of Nature 7 out of 10.
Okay, so it's the same score as me. You said you really liked it, and then then you mark it down to 7. This should be 8 or 9, surely.
7 is a good score.
Okay, right, folks.
Luckily, I brought the average down. Gosh.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much, folks. We'll do it all again next week. First on Film and Entertainment.